just give people a couple more minutes to join. We've got a lot of people coming on the call this morning. 115 people have registered, which is fantastic. Good morning. I'd like to welcome you all to this autumn talk, Cleaning Up, Keeping Your Business. Before you get worried, this isn't all about EN 14476. It's not just about rotating duvets, it's about seeing a way to the other side. I'd really like to thank Landlord's Little Helpers, Bruce Stevenson and Solway Water Management for supporting this event, and of course, Tonics. As always, I'd like to thank our partners for business for their support as well. Bruce Stevenson, Cumberland Business, DM Hall, Discover Scotland, Home Away, Interhome, Super Control, and indeed Quality and Tourism. We really do rely on our members and our partners to continue what we do, supporting self-catering in Scotland. With all that's coming up, and I don't know who has seen the new consultation that the Scottish Government has put out, but it's terrifying. We really appreciate the support of our key industry partners. Scottish tourism has been battered by COVID-19. There's no point in sugarcoating the impact of this virus on our sector because it's been the most ruinous single event that anyone can remember. Many across our industry, particularly within self-catering, have done our utmost to be part of the solution and to get ready as the pandemic approached and to get back to work early to mitigate the problems caused by it. There's no doubt that our industry is bruised and wounded. We've been through some seriously tough times. For me, as Chief Executive of the ASSC, trying to do our best as an association to support the self-catering sector, but also as a business owner that's been running self-catering for 18 years, there have been really dark times. But I always kind of do my utmost to see the light on the other side. And that's what these autumn talks and future discussions should be focusing on. You can always make something positive out of negative if you harness the opportunities and don't just cower away from the threats. Self-catering took the decision to shut down early, implement strict and incredibly costly hygiene rules, and to do as much as we could to be ready to welcome guests back quickly. Once this hard work was complete, there was a brief moment in which it felt as if we were turning the corner and getting ready to get back to what we do best, creating memory-making holidays, both for Scots and for those visiting from abroad, less of those just at the moment. And now we're facing the rule of 6. For those of us who have properties that accommodate over 6 people, once again, things seem grim. Just to be completely clear on this, and this obviously came in yesterday, the limit for groups meeting up both indoors and outdoors is now a maximum of 6 people from 2 different households. Children under 12 are not included in this 6. This is now a legal requirement and every individual must follow the rules. As a business, you've got to ensure that your booking system is arranged so that it doesn't accept bookings that exceed these numbers. Simple steps, ask the right questions. Is everyone from more than 2 households? Are there children under 12 from the same 2 households, as they don't count towards a 6? You can't accept bookings for groups that are clearly exceeding the limits. This isn't guidance, it's law, and if you don't comply, you can be fined. Use our pretty new infographic that we've produced. It's lovely and people will get it. It makes it simple for people. It'll show that you have also complied with your legal obligations. The rule of 6. According to our recent survey, 44% of the 500 responders said that they've got properties designed for more than 6 people. 89% of those people are concerned about cancellations resulting from the restrictions. 20% of responders said they'd lost over £5,000 in the 3-week period, and 12% over £10,000. In 6 weeks, the losses pile up to £5,000 for 22% and more than £10,000 for 26%. In other words, 84% of our members expect to make considerable losses in the next 3 and 6 weeks. I'm included in those figures. But again, looking at the positives, there are some, I promise. You've probably all been open for a couple of months now, so I'm going to assume that you've undertaken a risk assessment. And if not, if you take one thing away from today, do one. I can't do it for you, nor can Jen. She didn't even do mine. Your properties are unique and each one needs a risk assessment. This is where you walk around and identify the risks and work out how you're going to mitigate those risks. Start at the front door. Who are your guests? Kids. Kids touched everything low down. You need to prioritise that level if you accept children in your property. This risk assessment is going to inform all of your processes. Science is constantly evolving, Your risk assessment should therefore be agile and respond to changes in guidance. Nothing's set in stone, and you shouldn't get complacent. Cleaning. We all know how to clean our properties, I hope. All that's changed is now we need to undertake a two-phased approach: clean, then disinfect. We should have all been doing it before, to be honest. We should be mitigating the risks of transmission of norovirus, seasonal flu, the common cold. These new cleaning protocols are best practice. They're not really entirely new way of behaving, but it's just focusing in more closely on what we need to do. They're not law, but if you follow them, you're not going to get complaints about cleanliness. So that's got to be a good thing. When we wrote the guidelines, and I spent a considerable amount of time liaising with Jen at Landlord's Little Helpers doing so, it was important that they were understandable. As I say, I've been a self-caterer for 18 years. So these guidelines were written by self-caterers for self-caterers. When you first look at the 27-page guidelines, it may feel a little bit daunting, but you only need to read them once. It's the frequently asked questions that are the most helpful bit, and they're constantly being updated, both in terms of the science, but also the latest restrictions and regulations. We published our latest ones on the 13th of September. They do what they say on the tin. They answer the common questions. You want to know about bedding? Check the FAQs. What's the latest guidance on how many households can be accommodated at one time? It's in the FAQs, and they are all on the ASSC website. When it comes to the actuality of bringing the guidelines to life, if you're doing it yourself, or if you've got a team doing it for you, you really need to understand what the processes are and why you're doing them. People have asked me, if soap and water is good enough for your hands, why can't you use it in a septic tank? So imagine the virus is a balloon. It needs soap and water, but it also needs agitation. There's no agitation if you pour disinfectant down a septic tank. That's why we need to clean and wipe and then disinfect. It's just simple questions like this that really make life a lot easier when you're actually carrying out these protocols. But don't just do it, tell your guests that you're doing it. They should appreciate the extra work you're putting in to ensure their and indeed your safety. They should appreciate the associated costs, the chemicals, the equipment, the bedding protection. Let them know what you expect from them prior to their arrival. You want them to strip the beds. You want them to remove the rubbish, all of those things. Give whoever's doing the cleaning a cleaning checklist. Get them to fill it in and leave it for incoming guests. Feedback showing that guests really appreciate this. They appreciate the diligence and the effort, and they feel much more confident. And this is all about consumer confidence. It may feel a bit daunting, but it's not. We can all do this. We can all do this, and we're doing it. It may take a wee while longer, and it may take a while to become second nature. It's achievable, and it's also deliverable. Another big question that I keep getting asked, can you comment on whether accommodation providers can offer a guarantee that a property is either COVID secure or 100% guarantee coronavirus will not be transmitted to property? No is the simple answer to that. Work on the assumption of plausible deniability. Did they get it at your property, or did they get it at the petrol station on the way there? There's absolutely no way of knowing beyond doubt, but I know that it's a question that comes up time and time again. So what are the opportunities around this? It's not all bad. Self-catering is going to be the holiday of choice for the foreseeable future, no doubt about it, even if numbers are restricted. Harness this real opportunity. If you can only accept 6+ kids, tell people. Tell your guests that that's the situation, but don't think that you're not going to get any bookings. Possibly think about offering a discount, 20%. As long as you're still allowed to operate, appreciate that we still can. Don't despair, discount if you need to. We need to be agile. We need to adapt to the situation as it changes. Don't fight against it. Look at how your business can fit the new restrictions. If you're better than the rest, tell them you're better than the rest. If you've undertaken Landlord Little Helpers training or other online accreditation, tell people about it. Use it as a marketing tool. If you signed up to the Good to Go scheme, use the logo on your website and via social media channels. Really encourage the confidence that you've gone that extra mile to make sure your guests are going to be safe. And this will hopefully increase your bookings. Consumer confidence shouldn't be underestimated. Don't miss the opportunity. At the same time, don't necessarily increase your prices thinking that this is a boom and you can just get as many bookings as you want. This is when we attract new people to the market, but we need to keep them. We need to keep them in Scotland next summer. We want them not to go back to Italy or Portugal. Use it as an opportunity to really analyse your business. How can you improve it to take advantage of the increased domestic market? And make sure you tell people what you're doing differently. Maybe there's an opportunity to diversify, to change your business model. But do not forget, if you're making a fundamental change to your business operation, tell your insurer or your broker. On the subject of insurance, and I'm on total tenterhooks, waiting for the outcome of the FCA test case against insurance companies, which I think is coming out as we speak. Don't just shout about your cleaning processes. Make sure you offer flexible cancellation insurance policy going forward. This is going to be absolutely critical. It's what guests are going to want, and it's going to give them that confidence to book your property over somebody else's. Look at dynamic pricing. We had that autumn talk last week, which was really, really helpful. Harness the new products that are out there that can protect your business and help it grow even in these uncertain times. We've all had a really torrid time, but we've got to look at the positives and not dwell on the negatives. The road's open, there are loads of potholes, but there are loads of tools out there to help you navigate those potholes. It's really important to stay positive and look towards a really shiny future. There are also people that can help with this. And I'm going to hand over now. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Jen Burton, who is Director at Landlord's Little Helper. Jen helped to develop the training course in conjunction with the ASSC's cleaning protocols that is now being endorsed by the UK government, Scottish government and Welsh government. The Landlord's Little Helper online course, if you haven't done it, is really, really important and really excellent. It's a no-nonsense, easy to follow course created for property owners, managers, cleaners, etc., looking to ensure their properties operate safely when they open. Jen was asked to do the work because her reputation in Edinburgh is exceptional as director of the holiday let cleaning company, Landlord's Little Helper. Her background as a physiology graduate enabled her to look behind the science, the myths, and work to create a cleaning protocol which is now widely accepted by the industry. Jen, we welcome you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much. So, good morning, everybody, and thank you for that lovely, kind introduction. As we said there, I'm Jen, and I run Landlord's Little Helper in Edinburgh. We do holiday let turnarounds, maintenance and compliance on both short lets and long let properties across the city. So during lockdown, Fiona and I were talking quite a lot about how we were going to get the industry back up and running, and we pulled together these cleaning protocols, a lot of it from research and science rather than practical knowledge at the time of what was or wasn't feasible to do at every turnaround. So there's definitely the importance in the training and the protocols of running your own risk assessment, as Fiona just mentioned, and working out how you can mitigate those risks in a way that you can still run your business and still ensure that your guests are safe, but that you still got profitability in your mind, etc. So it's very important that obviously your cleaners are safe, that your guests are safe, but we don't want to be running a business at a loss, as I'm sure everybody is aware. So in the protocols that we put together, and in fact the training course, all offer you ideas and knowledge behind the guidelines so you can put those to your business. As I say in the course, just because we suggest putting all your glasses through a dishwasher at every turnaround, it doesn't mean that if you can't fit a dishwasher in your house, you have to reconfigure your kitchen in order to put a dishwasher in. Your other solution would be maybe to reduce the number of glasses you have so that you can do the washing up quicker at each turnaround. So I'm just going to run through today some other queries that have come up and some other solutions that we've come up with in the hope that that helps you work out how you can implement some of these changes as well. So I've got 4 main points. Those are how long we leave the property, between cleaners, between managers going in and inspecting, between guests, how we can encourage our guests to strip beds, what we're doing about the mattress and pillow protectors, duvets, pillows, all those options, and of course talking about high touch points again, and the importance of those. Okay, so since lockdown, I think as a company we have done maybe 300, 400 turnarounds. So it's been pretty full on. We've had to adapt a lot. We've had to work through what's worked well, what hasn't, and try and find different solutions. Every property that we work in is different from each other. So we have a separate risk assessment for each property. And we've worked to those risk assessments and carefully gone in and cleaned as we can to the tight deadlines. Sometimes it's been really tough, especially in the horrible situation where somebody's not cleaned up at all before they've left all their takeaway food still out on the table. You know, there are those guests, and we'll all have them, and we'll all wish we didn't have those ones. Anyway, so realistically, how long should we leave a property before going in, and how can we reduce that time in order to ensure that we can still get the clean done? So the scientific evidence around this is still quite confused. There's two main things that there is the risk of indirect contact and airborne contact. That's your more heavy droplets that you might expel when you cough or you sneeze, or yeah, those bits. Those are going to drop from the air quite quickly and are actually less of a risk when you're in the property cleaning after people have gone. They're more of a risk when you're in a social situation, having dinner with somebody. So your more risk is the fine droplets that are expelled on every breath that we take. And these can be held in the air for longer and will also dissipate further because they're suspended for longer. But every minute that we leave a room without somebody in it, they're dissipating and they're reducing and they're dropping. So if we can increase the airflow in a room before we go into it, then we have less risk to the cleaners that they will get anything. Just on a side there, these droplets are from asymptomatic and symptomatic people. So that's the bit that is a bit worrying, is that nobody knows if you're breathing them out or not. So what do? We ask the guests to leave the windows open. I know sometimes there are loads of midges and you don't want your windows open. Sometimes the weather's terrible and you can't leave your windows open because you'll have a flood. So there are times when that just isn't possible. But let's face it, on a really windy day, if you can't have your windows open, at least when you open the door, you're going to get a lot of wind through there and there's going to be a lot of air circulation. So that's a positive. The midges thing, no, not so good, because that's when there's not very much air. So, but we need to try and work out how we can deal with this. So can we ask that if it's really wet and windy, can we ask the guests to leave the windows open while they pack up and get up in the morning, and then close them before they leave? Can we leave the windows open just a little crack? Any air circulation is going to be better than none. And I was just thinking, if you've got a bad midgie situation, do you have a fan? Can that be put on when the cleaners arrive, even just to get some air movement around the house? So then the cleaners arrive and the windows aren't open and it feels like a furnace in there because the heating's been on 33 and it all feels quite stagnant. The cleaners themselves, I've had feedback from my cleaners that is when they worry a little bit. So what can we do at that stage, and what do we do? So first thing we do is we put on a mask and then we open windows. While we're opening windows, we leave the door wide open, again, just to encourage a through draft. While we can do everything we can, you still need to get into the property and you still need to clean it. And you've got to remember as well, we're mitigating the fact, we're in our minds, every person that comes into this house has got the virus. That's how we act when we clean. In reality, that's not the case. So while there is a risk, and we have to take and be careful that there is definitely a risk there, and we need to mitigate against that risk, when we're also having our calmer mind on us, we need to remember that these risks we're putting in a false situation, that we're saying that everybody's got the virus. They don't, you know, we all know, because not many of us have it, I think. Anyway, so just moving on, those are things that you can do to reduce the risk of the air and encourage airflow. On a side there, you know, it's very different when we do know if somebody has been infected in a property. We at the moment, touch wood, haven't had to do a clean after somebody has definitely been infected. And I think that it would be really important in that situation to ensure there is a good long gap before you send your cleaners in. I wouldn't be going in for at least 24 hours until after that person had left. So yeah, I just think that that's an important part to put on there. Okay, next point is stripping beds. You know, this is a difficult one as well, because in our hospitality minds and our hospitality values, we want people to come away to our self-catering apartments so that they don't have to do the housework. They can relax, they can, you know, not have to do things like stripping beds. But at this point in time, this is a key risk, in that once somebody's got up in the morning and they've had a nice big snore and dribble all over their pillow, when you shake that around and you strip that pillowcase off, you are potentially putting the virus back into an airborne situation, which then your cleaners, whoever, could then be inhaling. So this is what we're trying to prevent. And while it doesn't feel quite right, maybe as a host, it probably is, or it is also something that we need to try and educate our guests and explain to them. So we've had a mixed bag of guests. Some, as I said earlier, don't even think that throwing away and their takeaway is important, but others are, you know, very, very good at this. So what we have learned is that asking guests to strip their beds is one thing. Explaining why you're asking them to do it has really improved the uptake of stripping the beds. So explaining to them that it reduces the risk of the virus going airborne again, and therefore the risk to the cleaners, then we seem to have a higher uptake on people stripping their beds. So I definitely recommend doing that. Also providing a laundry bag or something for them to put the dirty linen into works really well. In fact, there's been feedback from people saying, I know you want me to strip my bed, but where do you want me to put it? So giving them that bag is good. There's also, you will have probably seen, and I can certainly share a link if it's useful, the soluble bin bags that you can basically wrap your whole linen up in and then throw the entire thing in the washing machine, and the bin bag dissolves within the washing machine. So that can be good. And definitely something worth trying. And in those ones as well, you could actually just write on them, dirty sheets in here, please, dirty towels in this one, and dirty protectors in this one. For those of you who do your own laundry, that's probably not a big factor, but for us, we send our sheets and duvet covers away to get laundered, and yet we would do the mattress and pillow protectors in-house. So we don't want those getting confused with each other. So we provide a different bag for those, and it produces slightly less of a headache for us later down the line. So those are definitely some steps that I would say encourages people to strip their beds, which then makes the cleaners feel a lot happier. And a lot of this is about protecting those people who are going in and dealing with the turnaround for you. The pillows and mattress protectors. This is a fun one, isn't it? Because it is a massive extra job. Although a lot of people wash and clean their pillows and mattress protectors at every turnaround anyway. And maybe that's just the, you know, good hygiene standards that everybody should have in this industry. But it does require more storage space, and it does require good drying facilities, because as we know, mattress protectors can somewhat melt in the tumble dry. So what different houses, different people are trying different things. Having spare protectors is, I would say, number one. Being able to swap those so that there's no delay in making beds rather than waiting for them to dry. Some people are just quarantining them rather than washing them every turnaround. I think probably depends on how long your guests are staying as well. So it would influence that decision for you. Some people are having spare of everything and just big IKEA bags for each bed. So spare pillows, spare duvet, spare mattress protector, wrap them all up, put them in, and then swap them over for the next time. That can work quite well. Using the misting bottle. I actually brought one with me because lots of people always ask, what is a misting bottle? This is a misting bottle, and when it mists, it sends a very fine spray, which means that it dries very quickly. It gives good coverage, and you can get the misting bottle from all sorts of places online, and it is really a much better way of dispersing the disinfectant if you need to use it. And then other people are also doing steam cleaning of these things, as you all know. There's all the chat of the different options that people are using. But it all depends on what you have and whether you have space for that storage, etc. And then final point I want to talk about was the high touch points. There's still a little bit of confusion in the science about whether you can actually get infected with the virus by touching a light switch where somebody else has touched it before and might have shed some virus. The virus can be found on those. Some people are saying it's viable, i.e. it can then live and reproduce in you. Other people are saying that isn't what happens. So it's confusing science on that side. But apart from anything else, it seems sensible approach to make sure that these high touch points are disinfected at every turnaround. So that's your light switches. As we move into the winter months as well, light switches, thermostats are going to be more important because more people are going to be touching them more often. And also TV remotes. And it's not just the disinfecting. This is what Fiona mentioned earlier. It's also about the hearts and minds and making sure your guests feel and know that you've taken it seriously and that they're protected because you are taking this whole cleaning element very seriously. So those, I think, are the key points that we've had come up. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. So I will see if I can help those afterwards.
Thank you, Jen. That is fantastic. I think you really are the queen of clean, so well done.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I'd also love to welcome Iain Jardine, Water Hygiene Consultant at Solway Water Management. Iain's been involved in the water hygiene and Legionella control industry for 12 years with a background in public sector and NHS. He formed Solway Water Management in 2017, recognising a need for a local water hygiene company to be based in Dumfries and Galloway that specialises in Legionella management, private water supply maintenance, and the safe management of hot tubs. We all know that everybody looks for properties with hot tubs these days, so how can we deal with them safely? Solway Water Management became an ASSC Supplier Plus earlier this year to promote safe hot tub use and management and Legionella control within the Scottish industry. So welcome, Iain. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning, Fiona. Thank you. Morning, everybody. Just to give a wee background on myself, as Fiona mentioned before, 2017 we formed Solway Water Management. It was to basically do traditional Legionella work in schools and public sector buildings, but we actually found a sort of niche for holiday markets and hot tubs. So really what happened to be was going to be a bit of a sort of side looking after hot tubs. I actually became a main business plan with Solway Water Management. So really what I want to talk about today is a safe upkeep of hot tubs, legal requirements, daily checks, monthly checks, weekly checks, and we're going to look at, believe it or not, there's a lot of legislation around hot tubs, and there's a lot of people getting hot tubs put in the property. A lot of our clients are like farmers that are diversifying, and you know, a lot of them don't really have an understanding of the inherent risks there actually is with hot tubs. So really what my business specialises in is explaining to you, you know, the legal requirements if you want to run a hot tub safely. And we put in management systems in place, so we carry out risk assessments, we provide pool safety operating procedures, emergency action plans, Legionella risk assessment, and a large part of our business is actually microbiologically water sampling. Now, people get confused with the sampling, thinking they're actually checking the water for chemicals each day, but it's actually taken to a lab and getting it's analysed for specific bacteria. So what I really want to do today is I've produced a little slideshow that I give to some of our clients when they come on board with us, and we're going to go through the slideshow. It's about 10 to 15 minute slideshow, and it's going to go from everything that the legislation is set out. Okay, so if I go my screen, fire up this. Okay, so hot tub safety. So what's the big risk with hot tubs? Right, a lot of people ask me, what is the risk with the hot tubs? Well, untreated hot tubs can create an environment that encourages the growth of bacteria. Okay, so the worst thing about a hot tub is it's the temperature, and specific bacteria like specific temperatures. Okay, and hot tubs will run between 30 and 40 degrees. Okay, and this temperature is favoured by specific bacteria. One was Legionella. Okay, so what we're going to look at is HSG 282. Now this is a legislation that was brought out in 2017, and this is like my Bible, and I look through this, and anything I advise anybody is basically from this legislation. So we're going to look at table 1 from the guidance, okay, and this is basically all the checks you should be doing. So that's it there, HSG 282. You can get that, you can download that from the HSG website. Okay, it's free to download, and anybody who's in control of a hot tub should be reading that. Okay, this is a table 1, and here we've got operational checks and typical frequencies. Okay, so the idea of this legislation was because hot tubs that are used in a business setting, i.e. rented out, they fall under the Health and Safety at Work Act, and therefore you have a duty of care to protect your guests and your staff. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Right, so there's a few things you should be doing, okay, before you even think about checking the chemical balance, right? And one of the things you should be doing is you should be checking the water clarity, okay? So why do we check the water clarity? Well, first of all, it's unsightly for guests. Guests don't want to be jumping into a cloudy, dirty looking hot tub, okay? Also, if it's cloudy, then there's a high chance it's got a high TDS, which don't dissolve solids, and that's basically it's contaminated. Okay, so first thing we do before we get any chemicals out, we should be recording what was water clarity like. Okay, so here we've got an example of clear, average and cloudy. Okay, so guests check out in the morning, they went away for the day, doing a bit of sightseeing, and you'll be coming to the hot tub and recording what you see. Okay, so water clarity checks is the first thing you do. What else are we checking for? We'll be checking the water line. Okay, so the water line is where most organic debris can collect. Again, it can be unsightly, and it again provides a nutrient source for bacteria. So if you turn up and see this in your hot tub, makeup is a culprit, fake tan, you should be cleaning that off. But before you're cleaning it off, you should be recording that, writing it down, taking a photograph, okay? Because again, you shouldn't be using fake tan in a hot tub, and you shouldn't be wearing makeup. And we're going to touch on what information you should be giving your guests prior to coming and during check-in, so we'll touch on that. But one of the things is to make sure you have a wash and clean before you go in. So water line check, you record it and take a photograph. What else are we checking? Skimmer baskets, okay? Skimmer basket is where the filter is, okay, and that can be a high fouling area. So that's another place we want to check. Quite often you get beer bottles, things like that, get caught in the skimmer basket. Here in the pictures are fake tan. This was a pizza. So if you see things like that, you want to definitely be recording, taking photographs and writing it down. Okay. So the next thing you want to do is you want to check the hot tub surround. Okay. And if you see things like this, alcohol, excessive alcohol, then you definitely want to be recording this down. Okay. Because again, on the site information you give the guests, you recommend that you shouldn't be drinking. It's not so bad if there's a couple of glasses of wine, but if there's excess alcohol consumption going on, then definitely record it. Because if they're drinking that much in the hot tub, then it's very unlikely that they're adhering to the rules. Okay, so again, if you see that, take some photographs and record it. What we're trying to do here is paint a picture. Okay, so you're profiling this hot tub and the users for that weekend. And if they come back to you and they've got a rash, and we'll talk about folliculitis and that later on, then you've got evidence to say, look, you know, you've not been looking after this hot tub correctly. You've been drinking too much. You've been wearing fake tan. Okay, so record all this and take photographs. A lot of problems with people getting drunk and abusing. Again, this is a picture of a hot tub lid. A bunch of guys had got a wee bit drunk and jumped on top of it and ruined it. Now they cost about £400, some of these lids. So again, record it, write it down and take a photograph. Okay, other things that quite often I see, alcohol bottles at the bottom there, glass, smashed, kids bringing toys in. When kids bring toys in, they're really quite contaminated, and you don't want these to be in your hot tub. This will just exacerbate your hot tub. So again, if there's any things that shouldn't be in like that, take photographs and record it. Okay, quite often a lot of these lodges are dog friendly. It seems to be popular now, having dog friendly accommodation. But again, if you're seeing things like dog dirt lying about, then the likelihood is to me that they're not going to care about looking after your hot tub. Also, they could stand in it and end up bringing it into the hot tub. So basically, before any checks get done for chemicals, these are the sort of things you want to be looking at. Okay. Now we're going to talk about chemical checks now. So you've done all your checks prior to it, and now we're going to look at chemical frequencies. Okay. You should be doing it twice a day, as legislation and HSG 282 says you should do it twice a day. Okay. Okay, and when you put chemicals in, don't just chuck it in the bottom of the hot tub. You should pre-mix it in warm water. So if you've got a small container, take some of your hot tub water out, mix it in, and then you should put it into where the filter housing is, and that will suck the chemicals in, and it'll distribute it through the hot tub. Okay, so we're going to look at what chemical checks we should be doing. Okay, so some clients run on chlorine, some run on bromine. Okay, there's some advantages and disadvantages with both biocides. So first thing is chlorine. Now chlorine is far more cheaper than bromine. Okay, it's far harsher smelling, stronger smelling, and some people prefer to have bromine because it's a bit more less pungent, shall we say, and it's not as aggressive on your skin. So chlorine is far more aggressive, and it will probably be more effective at killing bacteria than bromine. But again, bromine is meant to be more effective in higher temperatures. So really, it's down to your own discretion what you want to use. But I would say that most of my clients run on bromine, and some run on chlorine. Okay, so you have to check the chemical balance each day. So the first thing is you would do is you would record what the daily check was. Okay, so it's got to be between 3 ppm and 6 ppm. Okay, as recommended. Bromine, again, I mentioned that before, it's quite more expensive, but it doesn't smell as bad, as it's not such a harsh smell. So if you got bromine, you would set that between 4 and 6 ppm. pH, you would record the pH, so that has to be between 7 and 7.6. Okay, the idea of the pH is that the more you can get the pH closer to 7, then it's more effective for the chlorine and bromine. Also, it's nicer for the breather as well. So you try to have it at pH 7. Also, total alkalinity, that's something that some of our clients do, some don't. The idea of TA is that if you can get your TA right, then you can get your pH right, and if you can get your pH right, then you can get your levels right with your chlorine and bromine. Again, it's additional chemical. Some folk do it, some folk don't. I don't get too tied up with it, but if you are recording it, it's got to be between 80 and 160. Now, some people have an allergy to bromine and chlorine, so there is different chemicals that can get used, and one's called Aqua Blanc. You can't smell it really at all, pH neutral, and some people prefer to use that. The only problem with it is it's really quite expensive, and the test strips as well are very expensive. But it is alternative. If you do get guests phoning up and saying, look, we are sensitive to bromine or chlorine, then you could offer them this. Again, there'd be additional charge for this because it is quite expensive. Method of testing, quite often get asked this. There's 3 sort of ways you can check it. One's with the test strips on the left. To me, that's probably the most popular one. I would say 90% of clients do that. You've got the Scuba 2, which is an electronic tester. And then you've got one that's sort of one you would probably see used in the swimming pool. Now, there's a bit of ambiguity about what's the best. Some people say that the test strips, you can't see them probably if you're colourblind. It's an interpretation of the colour you see. With the Scuba 2 or the electronic one, it gives exact numbers. The way I look at it is if it's easier to use, then you're more likely to do it. If you try to complicate it, then you might not end up doing it. But Vista don't endorse the tablet, the strips, and they would prefer using an electronic photometer. Okay, but again, my opinion is if it's easy to use, then you're more likely to use it. Other things you have to consider if we've got hot tubs, if we've got clients who've got 4 or 5 or more than one hot tub, then we should think about putting the names of the hot tubs, the names of the lodges actually on the filters. It's quite important this, because if we do get a positive for Legionella or any other bacteria, we don't want to be putting that other filter back into a different hot tub and cross-contaminating it. So small things like that you can be doing to refine your protocols. Water replacements, basically you change the water every week or between each new guest. Okay, the different ways you can do it. You can use a drain valve at the bottom or a submersible pump. Some people use wet vacuum cleaners, but the idea is that every week or every new guest you want to be changing the water. So that should be getting recorded. Water jets as well. These should be getting taken out as well. So I want to make sure that they're getting taken out and cleaned and recorded. If you have problems with guests that are isolating all the jets and there's no any distribution of the chemicals, then you can, little tip is you can cut the head off one of them and stick it back in. Fill hoses as well, that's another thing that should be getting cleaned and recorded. So your garden hoses that you use here to fill up your hot tubs, these can get really heavily contaminated, and they shouldn't really be left out in the sunlight. So every month you should be sterilising them, putting them in a bucket of filter cleaner. That's acceptable. Some of the fancy hot tubs have got air blowers. They can be quite bad at exacerbating Legionella because they're blowing air through, and they should be getting chlorinated every 3 months. The filtration part as well, that should be getting cleaned. A lot of our clients haven't got these, but there are some hot tubs that sell them with them on. Inline feeders, so this is really important for people that are using hot tubs in a commercial setting. Sometimes they're known as mushroom feeders that you would put chlorine or bromine tablets in. that float about on top of the hot tub. You've got things called frogs, what are basically got bromine granules as well. There's a facility in some of the hot tub suppliers to put that in, and the new thing, it's quite reasonably new, last year it came out, is an inline feeder you can use inside the filter. It's a really good idea, and obviously, you know, people can't, there's a concern with a mushroom that people can pick it up and chuck it out, or kids can open it up, and you know, there's chemicals in it. So the inline feeder built into your filter is a really good idea. So that's basically what we covered there was in HSG 282, and everything that I've talked about there should be getting recorded. Okay, now we're going to look at a couple of other things that's not on HSG 282, and this is just stuff that over the last 2 or 3 years that I've noticed that seems to pop up. Foamy water, okay, this seems to be quite a big issue. Foamy water comes from soap suds and that left in swimming costumes and things like that. So this is why it's important that you tell your guests to wash before they get in. Sometimes some body lotions and that can exacerbate it, and they can make it foam up as well. It's not sightly, it's not aesthetically pleasing for your guests, so you can get a thing called foam away that you put into there. Again, I'll be recording that as well. Cloudy water. If you see cloudy water, there's only one reason it's went cloudy, is it's been getting used too much. Okay. If you want to clear cloudy water, there's a couple of things you can do. Try open up all your jets first. There's other chemicals like Spark, Rapid Shock, and if that doesn't work, then you replace the water. Don't leave it like that for them to go in. Again, unplanned water replacements. If somebody has been sick in it, vomited in it, then you know you're well in your right to say to them, look, we're going to have to change this water midweek, and there could be additional charge for that. You know, some of the clients range from 50 quid to 150 quid. Again, it's your own discretion. I know you're a prisoner to sort of TripAdvisor these days, so you know people are worried that they'll get a bad review. So, but you're on your right to change the water if they've contaminated it midweek. Maximum bather load, again, if it's only suitable for 4 people, then make sure there's only 4 people used. We had a problem with people with lodges that had 6-man lodges and there were only 4-man hot tubs. That's not good because the hot tub can't cope, the filtration system can't cope with all that additional people in it. Headrests can get really bad places for fouling as well, so make sure special care for them. Take them off and clean them during your changeover days. Quite often we've got hot tubs with hidden valves in them. You know, you ask somebody, can you drain your hot tub down? He says, no, there's no drain valve in it, but sometimes there is. Okay, here's some pictures of hidden drain valves, and basically if you don't open them up, you're going to get a lot of stagnant water sitting in the hot tub, and that can contaminate it. Additional water features can be quite hard to clean as well in some hot tubs, so make sure that they get cleaned as well, and also make sure you operate them each day so they don't become stagnant. Also, hot tubs, when your clients leave your hot tubs, okay, then make sure you change the water straight away. Some of our clients have been leaving them for a couple of days thinking, oh, I can do it next day, you know, next changeover. Don't want to do that. Get the water out as soon as you can and get clean water in. Another thing as well is certainly during the 2 months we had off, we recommend that you didn't drain your hot tub because that can encourage biofilms and things like that. Okay, so deep cleaning as well, something about factoring, hot tub flush, super chlorinations, hot tub covers, the importance of putting your cover back on, stop blood drop-ins, lazy spas, these are things we get as well. Wooden hot tubs, that's a whole different ball game. They're quite controversial, wooden hot tubs. I'm told not to use chemicals for them, but there is ways you can look after them with certain chemicals. We certainly have good clients with wooden hot tubs. Swim spas, spa pools, colour instructions. These are the sort of things you should be having in your hot tubs. Emergency isolation switches, that's something you want to be having on your hot tub. Cleaning filters. This is an aftermath of a stag do, so this indicates how contaminated your hot tub filters can get. How to clean your filters, remove all the dirt, organic, 24-hour steep, make sure you dry them and don't use a power washer. Safety information, you should have all that. So I'm just want to wrap it up now. We're getting taking a wee bit too much time here. Bacteriological testing. So what we're checking for monthly: E. coli, coliforms, Pseudomonas, TVC, and Legionella. Additional sampling. Okay, and make sure that all your samples are UCAS accredited. Remember, if you apply the simple precautions and basic control measures mentioned, then the risks become negligible. Okay. So Fiona, any questions?
Thank you very, very much.
Sorry, I went on.
Gracious me, I'm in awe of people that have hot tubs. I know that if I go away, I want to stay somewhere where there's a hot tub, but my goodness me, it does seem like there's quite a lot to think about. Quick question for you, Iain. Do the same rules apply to steam rooms and saunas, or are the risks easier to manage with these?
So the idea that a steam room, it's obviously keep the temperature up high, so therefore there's no risk associated with steam rooms because the water's been pasteurised and it's boiled and it's steaming up. Then any bacteria that's going to be there is going to be killed off. So there's not a concern with them. Okay,
that's good to know. And just how realistic is it for property owners to go and check on these hot tubs twice a day? Is it feasible?
Well, we have. I try to look at it holistically. Okay, yes, it says do it twice a day. Okay, but sometimes, you know, that's okay if you live beside the property. Okay, and you can do that. But a lot of clients have got other jobs as well. You know, so the way I look at it is, if you get microbiological water samples every month, okay, and they're generally coming back okay, then that's you can use that as leverage to say, look, we might not be following things exactly how it should be, but our sample results come back every month and they're generally passing. So therefore, we're happy with what we're doing on our site, and that's your leverage to say, look, you know, it's working. So the question is it plausible? Well, sometimes it isn't, sometimes it is, but that's what your wee caveat is to get sampling done and see what they saw. You know, have you got your hot tub under control?
I suppose then it's going back to the whole idea of risk assessments, identifying those risks and mitigating them. Thank you.
Exactly.
Jen, I've had some good questions here. Has there been any change to the recommendations to wash linen at 60 degrees? There seems to be some conflicting advice about this.
So I suppose there are, there's different things. The 60 degrees, the heat in itself will kill the virus. Washing powder will kill the virus. Agitation within the washing machine of the process of washing will more than likely kill the virus. So if you have linen that can only be washed at 40 degrees, that's absolutely fine if you are then putting it in the tumble dryer or ironing it, because then again it's also getting to heat. But it's probably fine anyway because it's had washing powder and it's been agitated.
Brilliant.
So
that's
help.
Here's a good one. With guests arriving from an area in England that's had a local lockdown, it's not illegal for them to travel, but should we assume that that's a red clean?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's up to you and how you interpret it. I think I would err on amber, but other people might go for red.
Personal choice. What is really interesting is that I know of incredibly few, I think I'm going to say one person that has been called up by a guest to say that they have had a positive test result. In thousands and thousands and thousands of overnight stays since July. That's amazing and should be incredibly welcomed. So let's stick with amber, but if you feel like doing a red clean, then go ahead and do it, is the answer to that, I suppose. It would be really interesting to find out where you buy those soluble bin bags, so we can share that information afterwards. And also, if there are other questions that people have afterwards that want answers to, then please go ahead and email us, and we'll make those questions available and the answers available to them. Jen, remote controls, if you've got a plastic protector on them, do you have to change the plastic protector every time, or do you disinfect the plastic protector?
I would disinfect the plastic protector.
Yeah. Depends
what the plastic protector is. So some people are saying they're putting them sort of like in cling film or something, in which case just replace it, because that'll be easier than cleaning it. So but I'm not sure why putting it in a plastic protector is better than just using the remote, because you can just with your misting bottle all over the remote, leave it for a minute so it surface dries, that'll disinfect it, and then wipe it clean. The mist on these is so fine that it's not a problem for electrics. Well, I mean, really, you know, don't open something up, don't spray it in your toaster.
That was one of my favourite questions. This whole experience was, well, one of them was, are my guests still allowed to use the barbecue? And my answer was, well, possibly advise them not to lick the barbecue while it's on. Anyway, we have had some amazing questions over the last few months. I'm sure you've had some crazy ones. Here's a good one for you again, Jen. Guests leave my windows open and I use a HEPA air filter. Is this going to help?
Yes.
There you go. Simple. So what does that do? It just cleans the air.
Yeah. So a HEPA air filter is just very fine. So, and the coronavirus is very, very small, and an enormous amount of things and filters that are available on the market are not fine enough to stop it. But the HEPA filter is one of the finest filters that there is, so is more likely to stop it than anything else. But if you were like in a hospital with loads of infected people and you had someone really susceptible to the virus there, it wouldn't be enough, because there would still be a risk.
Right. Okay,
I hope that makes
that's
some
super
sense.
helpful. It does. I think we're going to have to wrap up now, but that has been really interesting and really, really useful. Thank you so much for coming on in, and Jen. And also thanks so much to all the attendees today. I hope that you've taken away some positives, because that's kind of what we're here for after all. Next week, we've got an autumn talk in partnership with Visit Scotland, looking at extending your season with UK and Irish visitors. It's a really good opportunity to get some hands-on advice from Visit Scotland's marketing team. So do join us for that. And of course, do not forget, on the 29th of September, the unmissable one really is, we've got the short-term let delivery group coming to discuss the impending legislation for short-term lets. So this is a really incredibly good opportunity for